Hello, you guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. It has been a couple days and I had to get on here. I wanted to talk to you guys about this. So, today we are going to talk about the aftermath of Bryan Kohberger pleading guilty. I know that all of you guys know that Bryan Kohberger pled guilty yesterday, and people are angry. People are really angry. Conspiracies are going wild. Um, so yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So hello to everyone. Thank you, Kelly. Good to see you guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jen up. I also extended the invite to Melissa, Wolfie, Amber, and I think that's it. But yeah, if they show up or wanted to come or had something they wanted to say. But yeah, things have gotten crazy. Hey, Bendy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I feel like my mic is really loud. Hold on a minute.
No, it sounds good.
Okay. I
Let me
always
check
feel
on
like
my
I'm
side.
too yelly.
No, it sounds really good.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it on automatically adjust in case like it does need turned up or down, but
In
sounds
case I
great
get
to me.
yelly.
Yeah, you actually sounded like kind of not low, but if it was any quieter, it would be low. But
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. How are you guys? It's good to see everybody. Make sure you guys give Allie a thumbs up on the stream. She works really hard, you guys. Help her out.
thank you. Stormy says, pulling up my chair and can't wait to hear your take. I never catch a live, but hooked on replays. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you caught a live. That's super cool. Jen, oh my gosh. So I wanted to talk about a couple things, and I found a really interesting article and a clip I want to show you and everyone that will tie into our discussion. But what are your thoughts now that you've kind of digested everything that's happened? Like, how are you feeling about it all?
I mean, at this point, I have accepted that um, the plea deal was made. It's not that I was upset about, or even really, to be honest, shocked that Kohberger took this plea deal. I think that when um, the pretrial was going on and a lot of things that they wanted to have happen on the defense's side didn't, the judge said nope. I felt like he was probably going to take a plea, and but I do think that my heart breaks for the families that wanted a trial. Um, and I just want to preface tonight by saying, when I talk about um, people's reactions, I'm not talking about the families. And I'll say that I want to say that again. I am not talking about the families' reactions. The families' reactions are their reactions, and they are entitled to them. I'm talking about the public, those that are not the family, because I'm not going to take anything away from how the families are feeling, even if they're not all on the same page.
Yeah. Well, they're not on the same page. And actually, you know what? I should play this clip first then, because I want to talk about everyone's reaction. I want to flip through their Facebook group a little bit and just look at some people's comments and we can react live. And I have a couple things I wrote down. I told you already that I wanted to talk about, but I know that people are being really hard on the families for how they feel. I've seen like on both the Goncalves or the Benzanas family, people who were for the death penalty, and people being hard on the others. And I just want to show you something that Steve said talking to Ashley Banfield.
Okay.
And this like broke my heart, Jen. And I just feel like all he's thinking about is this. Here, let me just play it and we'll talk about it.
I watched this. So this is a sad, brace yourself, y'all, if you haven't seen this.
I'm just going to play like about a minute, I think, but okay, here we
go. To be careful with this court system, and shame on me for not listening. Shame on me for letting Kaylee down. It's my mistake. I'm sorry, Kaylee. I'm truly sorry that I didn't get you a prosecutor who really believed what happened to you could only be fixed with life. Fixed, you killed 4 people, and to take 1 life for 4 seems like pretty simple math. But these guys describe this as a win, even though they don't ask us what a win looks like. So I'm sorry. I apologize to my daughter. I let her down, and it's been a terrible day. It's been.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm.
It breaks my heart that he feels like he let her down.
I know.
And
that's why
that
people
breaks
need
my
to get
heart.
off his back.
Yeah.
Like, he's not worried about anybody else. Oh, S. Hockett, I will explain to you if you don't know. He's not worried about anybody else. He is truly beating himself up, thinking that he let her down. And go ahead, Jen. You can explain. I agree with you. He did not. But what were you going to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
You didn't. You didn't, babe. You didn't. S. Hockett, if you go, I don't want to do this.
Well, you can look on Bindy's channel.
There you go.
It,
I streamed it. I don't like saying stuff like that on somebody else's panel, even though it's you and we do this to each other all the time. We share each other's stuff. It still feels weird for me to say it. So thank you, Allie.
Well, beyond that, though, Jen streamed it. So if you want to watch the replay of the hearing, you can. And warning, there was an echo coming from the courtroom, and that's just it's on the court recording. It's very annoying.
Yeah, and but it's quick. It's like a minute of it, and it's not. It's like somewhere in the middle, so you don't have to, worry about it.
It really bothered me though, because it was when the prosecutor was trying to explain what happened, and I could not focus. It was really frustrating.
It was distracting, and then I was like, "How do I fix this?" And I was like, "I can't fix it. It's not me."
But long story short, though, so you can watch it later, but so that for this live to hang out with us and listen, Kohberger pled guilty. He apparently, and this is what people need to understand, because this is the first thing I wanted to address, that people are saying, oh my God, the prosecution must not have had a good case. Their case must have been weak. All they had was what he said in court. Kohberger had his attorneys ask for a deal. This is something that they asked for. This wasn't something the prosecution was looking for. They were ready to go to trial. And what he said, which we talked about this on Jen, but what he said is just the outline. It's like the basics. He said he was willing to lay it all out, and it would have taken him a few weeks at least to lay out everything they had, every witness.
Yeah, hold on, Allie. So can you, I'm sorry, that was so rude of me, but I didn't want it to go by. I'm sorry, Susan, what do you mean? Am I the Jen Lou on Auntie Deb? I'm so sorry. Please explain more. Go ahead, Allie. That's my bad. Because I love Auntie Deb. Did Auntie Deb maybe play something from Bindy? Could that be? Okay, I'm sorry, Allie. I'm so sorry. That was so rude. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, so Jen, you made me lose my train of thought, but I got it back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just saw Auntie Deb and Bendy. And are you the Jen Lou on Auntie Deb? And I got excited for just a second, thinking that maybe Auntie Deb might have played something from Bindy for me. I love that channel. All right. I'm sorry. Let me behave now.
Okay. But yeah, so he did an outline that was basically, because I've seen articles today as well, and one kind of disappointed me because it was from the Idaho Statesman. This is a local paper that you do have to pay for, but they usually have very in-depth informative articles, and their title was Everything They Had Against Bryan Kohberger. That is just not true. If the prosecution didn't feel their case was strong enough, maybe they would have tried to get a deal, but this was not their doing. And what he stood up and said, while most of it we knew, we didn't know some of the things, but while most of it we knew, it was just an outline. So the prosecutor did have to stand up and tell, here is the basics of my case. But I mean, if we watched Dateline, we saw more than that. right? We heard the recording that they put out. We saw the videotape of his car. And Jen, speaking of his car, like going around, I remember they were saying they had multiple views of it, some that were very, very clear, some that were not. And Anne was trying to argue about connecting them all, right? Like connecting this camera with this camera with this camera to show his path and how that was unfair to him. But we don't know. Some of these camera views may have been very, very, very good, right? So there is a lot more. Did you watch the Dateline, by the way?
I did.
Because this morning he said something to you first thing, she said.
Oh, I'll have to go back and watch because I wasn't in there this morning. What?
Who is Auntie Deb?
Okay.
Now I have to know.
Okay, so Auntie Deb is a channel, and he used to just make little videos from the first trial, and he would wear Judge Bev's hairdo. Okay, but it was like a wig, but and he would play all of the different parts of the people who were testifying. He's friggin' hilarious. Hilarious. I'll share it with you. You got to see it. I love him. He does the good accent and everything. You know, he does the whole sidebar, you know.
Well,
love him. I just love him.
That's very cool.
Oh my God, I can't even believe that. That's crazy.
Well, that is awesome. But yeah, so what do you think about that as far as, you know, the prosecution must have had a weak case?
Actually, it would be the opposite. Okay. If you're the defendant and the prosecution has a weak case, then you'd go to trial. You wouldn't take the plea deal. Because if they have a weak case and you know that your team is going to put all manner of reasonable doubt into their case, then you be acquitted and it's over. It works the opposite.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Doesn't that show that they're like kind of nervous and they don't think they can, you know, win this, so they're not going to chance it?
I mean,
but
yeah,
as far as the defense, hello, if they want to plead, they don't want to fight it. So why?
Right. We're not talking about a situation where there was a fight at a bar and somebody caught charges, and rather than go to trial, they're just going to plead it down to a misdemeanor assault, get a year probation, and walk away. Okay, people do that all the time. That's not what this is. Okay, people do plead guilty to avoid the hassle of a trial, but not on fucking felony murder. Okay, not on murder in the first degree.
Yeah, the judge, you know, he had mentioned something about, he was just giving, in my opinion, the pros of not going to trial, right? Like the money thing being brought up. And he can't be swayed by the public. That's just his job. He has to go by the law. But I do know that the families, so Deborah here says, you know, I'm so worked up over this judge. And I do know that the families felt really offended by what he said in there. That's, you know.
Okay, so when I watched it, the day that I streamed it, yesterday, when the plea deal happened, to me, what I heard initially is a judge explaining how the system works. Okay. But then after the fact, when I had heard the family's reaction to it and all that, I went back and I listened to it again. And I can see now why they feel the way that they feel. The thing about it is, for me, sometimes it's kind of hard because I do watch trials. I do cover trials all the time. And to me, what he said was sort of explaining, this is how this works. I wish, looking back on it now, I wish that he would have taken the time to maybe write something and really, really think about what it was that he wanted to say and to whom he was saying it to show the families a little grace in that moment.
Yeah.
It did bother me that he pronounced Xana's name incorrectly. I stumbled over the Goncalves family's name. Goncalves. See, I do it all the time. I stumble over their name
You said it
because
right though, but
did I? Okay, I feel
Mhm.
like I always stumble over it, and I it just it's unfortunate. If he would have stumbled over it, mispronounced it, and not gone back and corrected, I would take it. I would be angrier, but he did try and correct himself. But I do understand why people feel the way they feel about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, play which part, Tess. I do too, and I respect everybody's opinion. And ultimately, I just want to, like you said at the beginning, not talk about the family's reaction. I mean, we can talk
Right.
about it. I
Right.
wanted to show that they're not even talking about the public's reaction to their reaction. They're thinking about how they let their daughter down. At least Steve
Right.
is. And that is
Right.
just so heartbreaking. And I just wanted to show that for people who are being judgmental in one way or another, just to think for a second and,
Right. And
see
and
that side.
and look what happened, okay? He was so upset, okay? And he knew that he would not be able to maintain his composure or control or whatever in that courtroom listening to the change of plea. But at the same time, which I commend him for that. You know, you got to know, like, I know my brand. I know that I'm not the right person to be interviewing somebody like Lori Vallow, Daybell, okay? But at the same time, his wife sat in there without him, which was also sad. And the whole thing is just, yeah, it just made me
Yeah,
sad, the whole
it's
thing.
super sad.
Mhm.
So Harlot actually clipped Steve saying their last name, and Jen just said it exactly how he did. He said Goncalves, and the Gonzalez almost sounded like a Z, but it's the Goncalves, the way he says it. Here, I can actually probably play it really fast. Hold on. Let me have Steve play it, because this is something that a lot of people aren't sure of, and they feel like they don't want to be disrespectful and they want to get it right. So let me just play it really quick in the mic. I'm not going to pull it up or anything, but okay. Oh, wait. It's playing through my earbuds that I have on. The phone's connected to. Hold on. Okay. Here we go.
We don't participate and we're G's, we're Gonzalez's. We don't participate and we're G's, we're Gonzalez's. We don't.
So that's how he says it. But, whatever. Not whatever, but I'm not trying to correct anybody, just to
No.
show how he says it, because we were all kind of talking about this and have for years. Honestly, it's been talked about. I've heard that for years. People don't know if it's Goncalves or I can't even say it that way.
For
but
me, I want to pronounce it Goncalves, but that's not, they pronounce it Gonzalez. That's how they pronounce it. That's how they pronounce it. So
yeah,
will,
you said it exactly like him, just the second time that.
Oh, good. Gonzalez.
Yeah. And happy 4th to you, Muscles, and good to see you. He said happy 4th, Alex, Jen, and chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Muscles.
Tess, now I see what you're talking about. That's funny. Oh, Wolfie. Hey, Wolfie. I don't know if you're going to talk or just want to be backstage.
She
What you doing, Wolfie?
Nothing. I just fed Kevin.
Well, let me ask you while you're up here really quick. Go ahead, Jen.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to. I meant to be muted when I said that. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. While you're here, Wolfie, dude, you've been watching and waiting. You followed this case so close every step of the way. How do you feel now, that it's over?
You cut out at the end. What did you say?
Oh man, I said, how do you feel now that it's over? That the case is over, since you followed so closely for so long?
I don't know. I don't think I really thought too much on it, I guess. there's pros and cons to it, I guess. Like I see good and then I see bad.
Yeah, same. No, I agree. Because it's good because then the families don't have to go through the trial. And it's bad because some of them wanted to. They wanted to see every detail put out publicly so he could be held accountable publicly. So,
Yeah, and I know that like two of the families were okay with it and two of them weren't. So it's just a, a
yeah,
hard thing.
yeah, it is. Well, I wanted, okay, let me grab my phone because I had wrote down a couple just like things that I saw people say that are so far from the truth. Okay, so some people are trying to say that he must have had like someone, a lookout or someone helping him to commit the crime, which I could see. You're like, okay, he takes on 4 people. And they're even going as far as like, oh, like Dylan or Bethany, someone inside the house texting him, letting him know when to come. Listen, that is so ignorant to even say. That's what my thumbnail. They have his phone records. They have all the girls' phone records. They have everything they said, their movements, everything. It might be hard to imagine one person doing this, but Bundy did it. It's been done many times. That's just the truth. If he would have had a helper or somebody, like, they would have found it, in my opinion. So, and they definitely would have found the messages. Oh, Wolfie left. I'm so tired of hearing that, Jen. It's like, dude, and why? Oh, then you just have to twist the knife a little harder. Not just somebody helping him, but somebody inside the house helping him.
Right. What? Why would? What motive would somebody inside the house have to want their roommates dead? What motive is there for Dylan and Bethany? That's who we're talking about. I mean, we might as well not mince words. That's who they're talking about. It makes no sense. Yep. It makes no sense. I'm not saying things like that don't happen. Okay, they do happen. But where does this come from? I could understand maybe at the very, very, very beginning. But now? Come on.
Yeah. I'm just going through to find the different pictures they took of him, not for these articles. But yeah, that's just silly to me. Okay, here's another one for you, Jen, and then we'll look through the Facebook group. This will be fun, I think. Oh my God, and I found a really cool article to show you and show the chat, and I cannot wait to show you. Maybe I'll do that before we go to the Facebook group. But the last one I have was, why didn't he kill Dylan if he was willing to kill Xana? Like, he ran it, like, as the prosecutor said, they didn't believe that he went in necessarily meaning to kill everyone there. But he targeted one of the girls upstairs and then ran into Xana and then went in to kill Ethan, who I read back again, Jen, and it did say who was sleeping at the time, but, I don't know exactly how they know that. I think that there could be more to be determined as far as that goes. Like, if he woke up during it, would brain activity show? Would they do testing like that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But why didn't he kill Dylan if he was willing to kill Xana? Well, I think part of that is something we learned in Dateline, I believe it was, which we didn't hear this in his outline, but he sat down in the room after he killed Xana and Ethan. He sat down in a chair in Xana's room. He must have been exhausted. I believe he probably just wanted to get out of there. And I don't know though, but what do you think, Jen?
So this is what I think. I think that Bryan Kohberger had a definite plan that when he went in that house. And I think that plan included one or both of the 2 girls upstairs. I think that it was either Maddie or Kaylee. Now the prosecution says Maddie. They know stuff that we don't know. Okay, so let's just go along with that theory that Maddie was the target. Thing is, you can sit and you can plan, and I mean, we do it in our everyday lives. We don't plan murders, but we always have best laid plans, right? And then life gets in the way. I think what happened in that home that night was he had a plan. think his plan was to go at Maddie. That's who his target was. I don't think that he ran through every if then but clause in his mind. And I think that he had to adapt. And I think that once it was over, once he had finished killing Xana and Ethan, I think exactly what Ali said is correct. I think that he was exhausted. I think that he probably had dissociated a little bit to some level. And I mean actual dissociation, not Letitia Stout dissociation, where everything she's dissociating 25/8. Not like that. I'm talking about actual. I think he had checked out a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think also that I think part of his plan was to be expeditious, get in, do what he intended to do, and get out. And when there were other people in the house that I think Xana might have confronted him, and I don't mean like verbally or anything. I think that they might have run into each other, and and then he was like, yeah, right. So it escalated there. And I think by the time when he got up from sitting in Xana's in the chair in Xana's room, I think he was like, holy crap, there might be more people in the house. I got to get out of here, and I got to get out of here now. And I don't think that he even saw Dylan. That's why.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. And hey, Chasing. Okay. So another thing, actually, I lied. One more, but we will find more, I'm sure, when we flip through this Facebook. But another one is, oh my God, how I just don't believe this. I'm not buying into this. How would he even know where Maddie's room is? Well, first of all, it did have a big M in the window. Okay. It was a window at the top of the house that, when you guys know how it is at nighttime, if the light's on in a house, you can see everything in there. Social media. We saw the girls on social media pretending to be each other, showing all the angles of the house to the point where online sleuths could figure out the layout of the house. Online sleuths were talking about it. If he was studying them and studying their social media, I think that would be pretty easy. I don't think that means, somebody in the house was helping him and shit like that. I just think that's silly to go to that. But that's just...
I agree. And I think, one of the things that was in the Dateline that really, there was a lot of things that stood out to me, but one thing that really stood out to me is that pool party that he went to. And what stood out to me is that he started to fixate on two girls. Fixate so much that when he was interrupted by somebody else coming over, another male, all he did was skirt around the other male and continue his focus as the girls were in the pool. That is, in my opinion anyway, very, very indicative of somebody who is quite capable of compartmentalizing. And not only that, but when there is a fixation, even basic civility, manners, social cues, clearly he was interceded by the husband of one of the girls because she made him uncomfortable. And as soon as he interceded, the two ladies went and jumped in the pool. I mean, if you're outside of the pool and somebody jumps into the pool, that is a huge social cue. Like, bro, I don't want to talk to you. I'm trying to get away. I'm willing to mess up my hair and my makeup to get away from you. Okay. I mean, that's just facts. And he's got like a one-track mind. And
what do you think then sorry.
So I think that it's very possible the thing about people like Bryan Kohberger is however he ran into Maddie was completely and totally innocuous to her. She doesn't even remember. It was just like one of those days. You know what I'm saying? Think of all the people that you run into on a day-to-day basis at the grocery store. And then there's the people you notice, and then there's all the people around that you don't notice. Okay. He noticed her. That's what I think. I don't think it had any, and I think once he noticed her, he set about finding out all of the things about her. And because she's young, because they lived on social media and they posted things on social media, unfortunately, they gave him, and it's not their fault, They're young. He's the one that
Yeah.
turned this into something nasty, dirty, and horrific. But
Yeah.
their social media posts are how he found them and where
And
everybody
speaking of
was at.
that, in the M in the window on her, I remember on her TikTok, you can see her in her room, and in behind her, you see that M, you see the pink boots. I mean, it's really easy to line up one video of hers and you can
Right.
line it up. And then I was going to ask you real quick before we get to Nene G's question. What did you think about him and this hiking thing he took up once he got out to Washington? Like, it just made me think of Bundy and knowing he was watching the Bundy videos and stuff. And he was like seen going up in the trails at nighttime when most people were coming off. Did you like, I don't know. thought
I
that was-
wonder, I do think that, I actually think that the hiking, I do think he admired Bundy. And one of the things that Bundy did is he would put his victims in the forests, right? So a lot of, many of them that were in Seattle and Utah were nothing but skeletal remains, and it took him a long time to find the girls. And so I wondered if he were scouting and going at night. I think he wanted to see, would he be noticed? Who all's out and about in the night? I think that he was planning this. I don't know that he had Maddie targeted. I just think from the beginning, but I at some point she became the one he decided but I think the planning of murdering a girl, I think started a long time ago, a very long time ago. And I think he went through did a lot of things.
testing out.
Try to
different-
test out, and figure out what he was going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so Nene says, what do y'all think of the father of Kaylee meant by telling the Kohberger parents, we seen your flight records? And then she says, oh, okay, I was wondering if he was implying they helped clean up or something. So I think he meant for the hearing, for the plea deal. Like this, y'all knew about this sooner than you said because you planned your flight sooner. That's what the way I took it. Now, here's what we do know, and fresh in your mind, Jen, more than mine. After the murders, according to Dateline, and they did, imply that what Dateline put out was true because they said there was a leak and put a special prosecutor on it. According to Dateline, Bryan Kohberger called his parents or called a line that belonged to his dad at an unusual time for them at like 6 o'clock that morning. And he talked to him for quite a while. And then we know that dad comes out there to drive him with him home. So did he confess to his parents? I mean, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible that they just were worried about him and they saw what was on the news. We know they were keeping up with some of the things happening and that the case had happened. Hell, his dad mentions it on the way home, or he mentioned something. He might have been mentioning the Brent thing. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, that is interesting that he calls his dad at that time. I don't know. What do you think about that, Jen?
I think
I
more
think
than.
that should.
Go ahead,
Oh,
babe.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I think that does show us, though, that they weren't like helping him after the fact, cleaning and things like that. He was calling them across the country.
I just want to say something to Chasing. Chasing says, I feel his autism is a huge factor. The focus on crime/Bundy, once there is a fixation, it's a bit different with an autistic mind. Okay. I had been paying attention, but I wasn't comfortable in because I wasn't sure if he had a diagnosis. And so I just was kind of steering away from that because I didn't want to say something that was incorrect. But if Chasing is saying it, I know she does the same thing. She would never say something that was misinformation. So so I have to say, I agree. Yes, that it's completely different. She's correct. She's correct. And I agree.
Yeah. And he was diagnosed after, in jail. And he was like, that was something that was brought up for penalty phase purposes.
A mitigating factor.
Yes. Yep.
And I just want to say that.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about that mitigating factor really quickly. Okay. So let's say that this had gone to trial. All right. And he'd been convicted, and it got to the penalty phase. And Ann Taylor used all of that as a mitigating factor. Okay. And let's say just for the sake of argument, oops, I didn't mean to bang my microphone. Sorry about that, you guys. Let's say for the sake of argument that the jury said that they recommended death. Okay. And he got sentenced to death. Bryan Kohberger would get automatic appeals. And I don't know specifically off the top of my head. I know that the Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that there are certain situations with people being intellectually disabled. There are and other circumstances where they will not execute them, and they have overturned death penalties because people were sentenced to death who do have intellectual disabilities. I recognize that autism is not that. My point being, I don't know that there has been a case yet presented before the United States Supreme Court respective to a person who is on the spectrum receiving the death penalty. And it would have been a strong possibility that at the bare minimum, he might have gotten a stay of execution just while they were hashing that out. That's all I wanted to point out.
Right. Crazy Cat, thank you for being a member. Chasing said, based on his brilliance, his rigid behavior, his stiffness, it all kind of clicks together for me. And I know exactly what you're talking about with focusing on stuff. So I have a family member with autism. She is low functioning, though. She also has a low IQ with it, and she struggles a lot. She's in her 20s, though, and she will get fixated. Like, she loves this certain country singer, and she will talk about it when she comes to visit. She's coming in a couple of days. She comes every year in the summer, and when she comes, she will say it 20 times in one day about, have you heard that song yet? Have you heard it? I'm just looking at pictures of, I forget his name. Oh my gosh, what is his name? He sings. Oh, it'll come to me. I can't believe it's off my head right now.
If you can sing a little bit, I can help you. You know me.
I don't know if I can.
You don't have to be in tune or on pitch or anything. Just kind of give me the
brain has just went. It's not Jason Aldean. It is. He's like more like modern day country. It'll come back to me. I can't think of the song. It's like a very popular song, though, that probably has 100 million or a billion views or something. Morgan Wallen, that's it. Mallory Taylor said in the chat. Morgan Wallen.
I could not have really helped you with country that much because I'm like an old school. I like old school country.
But yeah, she gets fixated on stuff, and and there's nothing you can do.
Right.
I just talk to her, and then I'll guide the conversation into something else.
Right.
But
my point with the whole, I do recognize that it's for people that have an IQ under 70. That's how it is now, but it wasn't always that way. And so there's always a first case. And what my point was is that I don't know. Bryan's case could be that first case, and they may have commuted his sentence to life. We don't know. Right. There's no guarantee, even if this had gone to trial, there's no guarantee that Bryan Kohberger would have gotten the death penalty anyway. The jury could have said, we think the better punishment for him is life without the possibility of parole. He could have gotten the death penalty, and then things change. You know how long it takes for somebody to be executed on death row, and some states are much faster than others. So yes, his IQ is very high. He's high functioning, but it takes a long time, and there's like appeals and appeals and appeals, automatic appeals, right? So in the interim of all of that, legislation and laws change in these respective states, and at the end of the day, Idaho could say, you know what, we're gonna do away with the death penalty, and under those circumstances, they would have commuted his sentence to life without the possibility of parole anyway. Now, that's, let me preface this again. I'm talking to the public. The family feels how the family feels, and they're entitled to that. That's not who I'm talking to.
Okay. So I found a really interesting article I want to show you before we go into the Facebook group, because I do want to respond to. I can't get over the conspiracies and the craziness surrounding this, and I do want to talk about that some. But this I saw as we were getting ready for the live earlier, and it says why Bryan Kohberger committed the college murders and the eerie similarities to an incel mass killer. So, regarding Elliot Rodger, which is interesting because that Papa Roger thing, that's unrelated to what we're talking about here, though, but still interesting. Okay, so let me find it. Okay. Roger inspired it says Kohberger's actions before the murders bear eerily striking resemblances to another rampage killer, Elliot Rodger. Roger inspired the incel world Kohberger was deeply immersed in by the time he got to Washington State to do his PhD. Incels, for the uninitiated, are members of a movement of frustrated men, that all virgins, that sprang upon 4chan in 2014, just hours after Elliot Rodger, a privileged student at Santa Barbara City College, committed mass murder and then suicide. The idea of the movement, started in Rodger's honor, is that one day the incels will succeed in their beta revolution. Okay. When Rodger lost his only childhood male friend, and after a female friend called Maddie had started ignoring him, he was triggered and began to plan the diabolical end. Maddie was the girl that inspired his whole murder spree. He intended his final act to be so performative it would catapult him into fame. And the last words he wrote were, "Finally, I can show the world my true worth." Here's some of what Elliot had to say about his Maddie in My Twisted World, his manifesto. He said, "The first real friend I made in the United States was a girl named Maddie Humphreys. Maddie would eventually come to represent everything I hate and despise, everything that is against me, and everything that I am against. I stalked her Facebook for a bit, and I saw she was the exact image of everything I hated in women. She was popular, spoiled USC girl who partied with her hot, beautiful, blonde-haired clique of friends. My hatred for them all grew from each picture I saw on her profile." So they represented everything that was wrong with this world. I would take great delight in torturing and flaying her and every single one of her spoiled, obnoxious, evil friends. They say, is this a coincidence that Maddie Mogan was also a beautiful blonde sorority sister? And I'm not saying he was inspired by him, but it is interesting. I think he was inspired by a bunch of different people. And according to this, he studied some of Elliot Rodger's stuff in the class he took with, what's her name? Catherine Ramsland. And we know that Bryan had the same kind of thing. At least kids came out that went to school with him and said, that he grew this hatred for one of the a popular girl. And there was a whole thing. I guess maybe he was bullied for a while by one or something like that. I don't remember all of it. Maybe Shay or Jen or some of you guys remember when this came out. But I still thought, wow, that's kind of creepy that, they're, hell, you never know. Maybe that helped him choose. Maybe that's why. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying we know that he was inspired. We think that he was inspired by Bundy. He asked questions like BTK, the same one BTK asked, has anyone else been arrested? So it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, it definitely does make you wonder. Could it be that it's a combination of both Bundy and Rodgers in that? So Bundy, what caused his real snap was the breakup of of him and his first girlfriend, and she had long brown hair parted down the middle. Okay. And every girl after that sort of became a surrogate for her. And I think clearly with Elliot Rodgers, there's an actual Maddie. I don't know. It almost reminds me, and I know this is going to sound really cliche and weird, but it does actually kind of remind me of the movie Copycat, where the killer in that movie was idolized a professor who taught psychology, and specifically she focused on serial killers. And so this copycat killer went down the list, and the way that she gave a specific speech or whatever, her, she was the class, and killed people in the order that the serial killers that she spoke about in her lecture did. And it makes me wonder if Brian Kohberger didn't do a little mixing in of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, that's what the kids that in the class that he was helping teach said, that he was like different towards his female peers. A former classmate, Holly, recounted receiving an overly formal text from him about hiking. Yes. But the girl I'm thinking of was from his high school that spoke out. But okay, listen to this. So I thought this was kind of interesting. It says that he where is it at? He went, okay, here it is. I met a recent DeSales graduate who told me Kohberger had come and sat down with him and his girlfriend uninvited, said nothing, and then followed the girlfriend around all night. It was creepy. Kohberger did this sort of thing often. The bar's owner, Jordan Sarelek, told him to leave and not come back. But Kohberger, as Connie Saba knew firsthand, was manipulative. He took his last year remotely. He impressed one of the professors who recommended him as a PhD student. When he went to Washington State, people got a glimpse into a mind that was, they say, misogynistic. Says he mansplained, eye rolled when the girls were talking. I don't know if that's true. That's just according to this article. And in the classes he taught, there were also problems. One time he followed a female student out the door to her car. Other women complained he was discriminating against them, grading them worse than the men. The WSU administration noticed, and the school began to issue him warnings about his teaching position, which was funding his time there, which he eventually he lost. Remember when that letter came out his letter about getting kicked out? Yeah. Whatever you call that.
His dismissal?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. Here's where it said he studied Elliot Rodger when he was a psychology student at DeSales. Rodger was part of the course about serial killers taught by Dr. Catherine Ramsland. So just interesting. I mean, who knows? But still interesting to talk about and wonder and think about if that's what, part of his inspiration. I think you're dead on, though, that it's a mixture of all the things together.
Mm-hmm. I think like Jason's been pointing out in the chat, like he already had struggles, mental health issues, etc. Right. And I think that over the years, he became more and more, I suppose, disenfranchised. And I think as he started to study criminology and serial killers, something for him, I think, clicked. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. Well, I was listening to the teacher talking about that, and she was, she was saying it was like she was reluctant to say that she worries that they might be teaching someone how to be like the people that like these serial killers. And she says, but the reality is the majority of the kids will go on to be FBI agents and to do things that will help the world. So, unfortunately, I'm one that ended up, someone took things from my class and went on to do the opposite. But I can't imagine. I mean, it's not her fault. I still think the things need to be taught, but weird position.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he has a lot of mental health issues. He expressed feeling blank or unable to connect with others, suggesting possible depersonalization or derealization, which are dissociative symptoms often linked to severe stress or trauma. And in the Dateline, they said that his searches, which I can't wait to see, his Google searches were, like he was searching about sociopaths. And do you remember what they were, Jen? What did he search?
It feels like he was trying sociopaths and psychopaths and the difference between them. And that's kind of what I remember. It's been a minute. I guess I watched it. I know that I just watched the Dateline this afternoon, but I also took a nap. So there's that.
Well, here's some of the comments he made on that old blog they found. He says, I simply don't want to live anymore. I've had this for over 2 years. I've had it bad in every single way. Not one night have I slept normal since I feel like I'm trapped here. I've been able to block it out for a while now, but I realize what is wrong and suddenly becomes unbelievable. I'm desensitized in every way now. People say these are supposed to be the years I enjoy and cherish. Well, I can't say I will cherish these days. And there's more where he talks about the visual snow and all over YouTube. I'm seeing comments that Xanax cures versus, I don't know what it goes on to see. In my head, after I exercise, my visual snow increases in intensity and the vein in my head pumps so hard I feel it. He definitely had a lot of mental health issues. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we stumble across in this group. There's almost 300,000 people. Oh, here we go. Does anyone ever else notice his signature on the plea deal is different from every other signature? Look at the C. I think it's a message. Not sure what, but it's driving me crazy. Sorry.
Maybe he wanted cookies. Maybe he was channeling Cookie Monster. See, it's for cookie. That's good enough for me. I mean, oh my
Coffee.
God.
Those were Bryan's old post on like something from like 2013. I think it was a long time ago that was uncovered, which they've been verified, talked about all over the news. Like, it's not just this Facebook post, because I don't even believe shit the news says unless it comes out in a document from the court, in a trial or something. I never believe it 100%, but those posts have been talked about all in several different news places, and when they came out, you could probably
Casing
find
said
it.
he searched sociopathic traits in college students 6 weeks before.
Oh, okay. 6 weeks before.
I mean, he was definitely, it was definitely a priority to him to get this done.
Yeah. Bucks04. Thank you. What does his jail cell look like? Not sure. I wonder what it will look like. Where will he be going to prison? Do we know? Because we could look up that.
Hold on. Let me see.
Okay. Another documentary coming out on Peacock.
Let's see. They have the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, and that is by Kuna, Idaho. But that's for death row. But hold on. I see. Okay, so that probably here, the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. We currently have 9 residents under the sentence of death in Idaho. Wonder where Chad's at.
Oh, American prison. I see here. Idaho.
Male residents are incarcerated at Idaho Maximum Security Institution south of Boise, and the 1 female resident is incarcerated at Pocatello Women's Correctional Center in Pocatello. Huh.
He's probably going to be in protective custody, at least for a little while. So his
Yeah.
jail cell's going to look empty and lonely, and I think he'll be a single cell for a bit, I would
And
say.
it's in Ada County, Idaho.
Here's it on their website, Idaho Department of Correction, but Idaho Maximum Security Institution.
Yeah, that's where I was reading it from. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back. Look, this person went and visited the spot where they took this last photo. Look. I'm sorry about the music. Makes it even more sad and hard to see. Okay. Is there anything else you've seen that you want to talk about, like misinformation and different?
Just that, this is not, some grand conspiracy. Okay. Bryan Kohberger pled guilty. I really truly believe first of all, I do believe he's guilty. Second of all, I think that's the first reason that he pled guilty, right? But I also think that will there be things that come out in after he's sentenced, right? They're going to unseal the things, right? But they're not going to unseal all of the things, okay? And some of the things that they likely won't unseal are surrounding, like, specifically like the autopsies and the autopsy pictures, maybe the reports. I don't know how strict Idaho is. So there will always be an element of what happened in that house that only Bryan Kohberger and the victims know. And I do think that I think that in him taking that plea deal, I think that that's going to go, those are secrets that, I hate saying this because it reminds me of Jeffrey Dahmer, because there were things that Dahmer did as well that he would never talk about, because it was like one last way of holding on to the victims in that way. And I think that this was a measure for Bryan Kohberger of control. That's what I think.
I think Ashley Banfield might have said something about him still being in control. Look at this post though. It says Bryan Kohberger from the New York Post. Bryan Kohberger set to die in one of the world's worst prisons with poop smeared cages, riots, and biohazard ventilation system. And one person says, problem with this photo is Bryan is a federal agent. He worked undercover, clearly on assignment, pre-planned to be an actor, perfect distraction. So feds will just move him out, extraction, relocation after trial, and go under new identity, just like I believe the 4 beautiful students are protected under the witness protection program. Wake up, buddy. Stop allowing ourselves to be played. Idaho 4 PSYOP, baby. I think Bryan was clearly a federal agent. Oh my God.
Yes, I read something somewhere where this they're just gonna he's part of witness protection, and they're just gonna pull him out.
Oh my God, people are just wild. I can't get over. I can't get over it.
I mean, unfortunately, he's not going to be warehoused with Chad Daybell. Now, can you imagine Chad and Bryan Kohberger's conversations?
No, yeah, Chad's on death row, buddy. Bryan is set to spend the rest of his life in one of America's worst prisons, a maximum security hellhole that faces accusations of feces-smeared cages, brutally violent guards, rioting inmates, and a biohazard ventilation system. The 30-year-old convicted killer. Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
It says will be next to Chad Daybell. Oh, I thought you said he won't be.
I said, wouldn't it be? Well, Chad Daybell, Chad is on death row. So they would be at the same prison, but not in the same
Right.
place.
Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Sorry.
But looks like they're going to be at the same place.
Yeah.
Which is where you mentioned, where you found where Kohberger is expected to be sentenced to life in prison. This hosts the state's most disruptive male residents and violent criminals. Here's a picture. Let's see. This prison has been named one of the worst in America, according to Security Journal Americas.
I'm so confused by that. Look at Harlot Oscara says, I heard a lawyer say that from what he heard at court, he's not sure he'll actually get a real life in prison, like dying in prison. He thinks he might be eligible for parole after like 50 years. What?
He got 4 life without parole, right?
Yeah, that's
So that can't be true.
let me just hold on a minute.
It was one of the 15 worst prisons in America. Among other infamous institutions like the Farm, Louisiana State Penitentiary, and San Quentin in California. The magazine highlighted its alleged harsh treatment of inmates, excessive use of solitary confinement, and lack of mental health resources. Wow.
Okay, it says a fixed life sentence on 4 counts of homicide, according to the agreement. Let's play this out. He also has to do those terms consecutively, meaning one after the other. They're not running concurrently. So he's not serving the 4 life sentences all at the same time. He has to serve 1 life sentence all the way through, then the next life sentence, then the next life sentence, then the next life sentence. There's no way he's getting out of prison ever.
You know what was mentioned?
But let me just Google what a fixed life sentence is in Idaho. Okay, because I love to Google.
His eyebrows. I heard it mentioned on Ashley Banfield, and in the Facebook group, they showed an old picture of him next to this and how his eyebrows looked far less bushy than they did, It's in the Facebook group we're looking at, so maybe we'll come across it. Let's go back.
Okay, so this is the difference. In Idaho, a fixed life sentence means an offender serves the rest of their life, natural life. That means their natural life. They die in prison with no possibility of parole. This is distinct from an indeterminate life sentence, which allows for the possibility of parole after a minimum period of confinement. He's not getting out. Ever.
So this Peacock documentary is out now. I guess it just dropped today, and Coffin Dapper's on it. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But thank you for looking that up and letting us know, because I had seen a comment that said that before, and I didn't think too much about it. I was just like, yeah, whatever. No, he's not getting out ever. But I don't see any deal where he's going to be eligible for parole or anything like that.
No, I mean, look, the state was going to. This was going to be the choices in sentencing if he had gone to parole, or if he had gone to trial. Life without the possibility of parole, or the death penalty. That's it. That's all.
Yep. I don't know. It's a little frustrating. Even before this happened, I was to a point where I wouldn't even go into. I would listen to Melissa and have to close her chat because people were so awful towards the roommates. And I don't mean just people saying I have questions, or that's a long time to wait, or what happened, whatever. Not that kind of stuff. I mean, downright accusing them of being involved, like just over and over again. And it had gotten so bad, and I don't see it getting.
You know what I listen to?
Any better.
You know what? I listened to today that really was heartbreaking, but at the same time, it put things into perspective. I listened to that 911 call. When you listen to that 911 call, they're kids. They sound, and I'm not talking about the way that their actual voices sound. I'm talking about the words that are coming out of their mouths. They sound like kids. Okay. They're passing the phone around. All right. They're not doing that because they're up to no good or, there's something nefarious going on. They're kids who are under an incredible amount of trauma and
they do.
scary ass shit, right? And they're handling it like kids do. Now, I would also hold on. I would also like to point out that with respect to the roommates and what happened that night and what they may have said or may have done, we don't have all of the information. What we have are bits and pieces put out in defense motions because they were using them to base a legal argument on as the foundation for their legal argument. We don't know everything that happened. We don't know everything that they told the cops. We don't know. We don't know anything really when it comes to the roommates. They are victims. And I would also like to remind everybody how it is that Bryan Kohberger came to be indicted in the first place. Okay. The reason that they were going to have a probable cause hearing in which the two surviving roommates likely would have had to testify, but they opted not to do that because the two surviving roommates were so traumatized and they would not have made good witnesses. They didn't want to put those girls through that. They knew that should this go to trial, they were going to have to testify. And they didn't want to put them through that for a probable cause hearing when they could just take it to the grand jury and get an indictment that way. And that's what they did. It's sad to me. We weren't there. And a lot of us that are looking back on in fact, I would say 90% of us that are looking at what the roommates, how they behaved that night, what they did or didn't do. If I'm not going to judge a 20-year-old kid based on my life experience. I'm freaking 48 years old. I've seen and done a lot of shit in my lifetime. I have life experience. The way that I would handle a situation at 48 and the way that I would handle it at 20 are completely different. Man, when I was 18, I used to throw hands, no questions asked, not even a second thought. I just did it. You really think that I would be throwing hands at 48 years old? No, it wouldn't be my first go-to. I'm 48. Jesus. They're kids, for Pete's sake. Cut them some slack.
Chasing says, in Idaho, first-degree murder carries either the death penalty or life imprisonment without parole. There's no life with the possibility of parole for first-degree murder. I just don't believe. I understand people being anxious and like, oh my gosh, could be only 40 years or whatever, but I really don't believe that's the case. I think that Chasing is right with this. Because I know that you guys are kind of debating it in the chat, but I definitely don't think that
this was it. Chasing just said it. These are the only two options for Bryan: death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. That's it. That's all.
Death by incarceration, she said.
Right.
Okay, I got one for you. Ready? I'm shocked. Okay.
All right,
I'm shocked that.
Sorry, we got a delay. I'm sorry. Let me be quiet. Okay, go.
No, that's okay. Okay, I'm shocked that people haven't started rioting in Idaho. This plea deal sends the wrong message. They might have grabbed a bullhorn and starts screaming, "Hello, all you orgasm-deprived incel serial unalivers. Come to Idaho and you'll be safe here." Oh my gosh. He's not safe at all.
Okay, let me explain something. Okay, so when you go to death row, you are pretty much in a cell for 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do you get visitation? Sure. Do you get phone calls? Yeah. But you're pretty much in a cell by yourself. Even when they take you out to the quote unquote yard, you're still in a cage. Okay? You're just outside in a cage. All right? Where Bryan is going, Bryan will be going where all the other people, all the other inmates have life without the possibility of parole as well. He will be in there with people who are similarly situated, meaning that he committed the same crimes that they did in general freaking population. He will have to mix and mingle with all the people. Will he be in protective custody for a while? Sure, but it won't be forever. Okay? So which is worse? They keep him locked up in a cell 23 hours a day where he remains relatively safe because can't nobody get to him because he'll be in a whole different part of the jail or the prison, excuse me, or where he's commingling with people who have committed murders and are just as violent as he is. Which is worse?
Yeah, he's not going to have an easy time in prison, in my opinion. But okay, I found the Goncalves have posted 3 hours ago. Do we want to hear it?
Yes, I do want to hear it, but would it be okay if I just took a moment? I can hear myself getting yelly and out of control. So I'm going to step away and I will be listening because I don't want to get yelly on your channel. That's very rude of me. And I've already been rude once today and I don't need to do it anymore. Fine. All right. I'll be right back.
You can get yelly and take a break. Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So they say, "Friends, we are home. Thank you for all your support, love, and prayers. This page is a place of comfort for me, my safe place. You all have been with me for years now and have always stood right next to me. I will forever be grateful. I am sorry if you don't agree with our recent decision on the plea deal. BK literally is too afraid to die, but he wasn't afraid to kill. BK wanted a plea deal and he was given one. Kaylee wasn't offered a plea deal. The state is showing BK mercy by removing the death penalty. BK did not show Kaylee any mercy. People tell us we should be happy with life in prison without parole as he will never get out. How is that not a win, they ask. Well, the death penalty also means life on death row. We knew it would be decades before he would ever face the firing squad. We knew that his execution was not going to happen anytime soon, but his life on death row while serving his time would have been much worse than serving his time as life in prison. He doesn't deserve life in prison. He deserved life on death row. Also, people say that the Goncalves don't want justice. They want vengeance. Well, let me ask you a question about that. If your 21-year-old daughter was sleeping in her bed and BK went into her house with the intention to kill her, and he did, by stabbing her many times as well as beating her in the face and head while it was clear that she fought for her life, what would you want? Justice or vengeance? Maybe a little bit of both. I'm curious how you all would feel. It gets so old having people say we want vengeance and make it sound like we are animals for having those feelings. I just find it so hard that so many people are judging us and they have never stepped foot in our shoes. Many people are talking about our GoFundMe and returning everyone's money. I understand this is a priority for many people. Please give me time to figure out the best way to do this. I can't just ask GoFundMe to reimburse everyone as the money has already been deposited into my bank account and is no longer held by GoFundMe. Steve and I need a few days alone to process what has just happened. It is so hard to describe what we are going through right now. It is very mentally and emotionally exhausting. My whole body aches from my fingertips to my toes. Please give us some grace. I promise we won't skip town. Oh my God. And that is why I played the clip at the beginning. Let me play it just one more time. I want you guys to hear this again, okay? Because I know there are a lot of people judging them for all kinds of shit. And I just think we shouldn't do that. Like, we really, if anybody there is not to judge in this situation, it's any of the families and how they're handling this. Even his family. Honestly, until there's proof that they helped or knew more or something like that, not after the fact, I think we got to give them a little bit of grace. Listen to what Steve has to say here. Just this one clip, like 30 seconds to a minute.
On me for letting Kaylee down. Me to be. The only people who reach out to me are agents that aren't part of this court system that have warned me to be careful with this court system. And shame on me for not listening. Shame on me for letting Kaylee down. It's my mistake. I'm sorry, Kaylee. I'm truly sorry that I didn't get you a prosecutor who really.
And let me say, of course, they can't choose the prosecutor. A prosecutor is not someone you hire. But if you're not satisfied, I'm sure you could ask, at least try and request for it to be for something that I don't even know what you would request. But let me just say that because I've also seen that said too. They should have paid for a better prosecutor. Well, they don't pay for them. They work for the state of Idaho. But okay, one last part.
What happened to you could only be fixed with life. Fixed, you killed 4 people, and to take 1 life for 4 seems like pretty simple math. But these guys describe this as a win, even though they don't ask us what a win looks like. So I'm sorry. I apologize to my daughter. I let her down, and it's been a terrible day.
He feels like he let his daughter down. Even though they did everything they could, even though in the beginning, guess who found the video at the food truck? Them, the family. They were the ones going through the phones, looking at every lead they could. So let's just give them some grace, please. If you take anything from this live today, take that from it, because this is pitiful and sad. And you know what? If somebody went into my child's house in their college home, killed them in their sleep, intended on killing them or not, stabbed them, and like he says here, hitting her in the face, we found out she had broken bones in her face.
Yeah.
I would want vengeance too.
It was brutal, which this is why I do think that live that we were talking about doing, comparing Bryan and Bundy, we need to do, but I think I would like to have much more information, just a little bit that's come out. That is what Bundy did. I mean, he beat the crap out of those sorority girls. He did. He broke one of the survivors' jaws.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
And I also have a side quest, because Chasing brings up a really good point about, she's right. She looked it up. I trust Chasing's research. She's never steered me wrong before. And they do have to protect him. It's constitutional. But what I'm wondering is, for how long? How long does a person deemed a high-profile killer? For how many years? Think about all the people that we've seen in all the years that we've watched true crime, and that have been convicted and that are sitting either on death row or in prison, that we have completely forgotten about. So I wonder, how long do they remain a high-profile killer?
Good question. I don't know.
I'm curious about this. So I'm going to do a little side quest. You know, I love a side quest, you guys. So, and listen, my heart aches for the families, because at the end of the day, even if everything, this had gone to trial, Bryan had been convicted, Bryan had gotten the death penalty, right? None of that brings back their kids. None of it. And he stole their lives from them. They were just beginning their lives, and he stole it.
Yeah, you're right.
Now
Now,
then there's no measure of, if it were my kid, you guys know how I feel. If it were my kid, I'd be trying to get to him.
Oh, yeah. I cannot imagine. I really can't, how you control yourself to not try to hurt them with your own hands, because
Right.
they've got other kids too, that depend on them as well, and grandkids now as well. And I just,
it's exactly.
But let me look at this. So this person was asking, is it safe to say Kohberger doesn't have to give a full confession that can be shared with just the families? I teach high school criminal justice, and I've usually told students that plea deals usually involve full confessions. So I want to see if I'm correct. And this commenter said he did write out what he did. The judge even said it yesterday at the plea. He wrote out his own account of the events/facts of that night and signed it. I'm sure it was given to the families to see first. Is that true? Because I didn't, listen, there's a lot of shit I don't catch. I got to watch something multiple times, but I didn't hear that.
Okay, so what I heard him ask Bryan Kohberger is if he held up like this packet of paperwork. It looked to be maybe 3 or 4 pages. And he asked Bryan if he filled this out. And he said yes. What that is that he filled out, I don't know, because I don't recall. I feel like that's something that would have stuck with me if he wrote out his own account of what happened that night. I don't think that's right.
Okay. That would be great if it was right, though.
But that was part of what Steve was angry about, was not knowing him. He said one of his issues with the plea deal is that Bryan it didn't include Bryan testifying under oath as to what he did, sort of the way that BTK did. And that's what he was upset about. And now I feel like if that was something that was included, I feel like he would say that.
Because what if it's private? Because he wanted it done publicly. He didn't just want the information to come out.
That's true. I don't know. And also, he's still technically under the non-dissemination order. And so even if he did get something like that, would he be allowed to talk about it? I don't know. I think that I do think that after the sentencing, I think that there's going to be some questions, answered, obviously, by the families. You know what I'm saying? And even by the prosecutor. He can't talk right now. So, right. Maybe we'll get the answers to some of these questions, and, we'll get the answers. I don't know how much or what they're going to see. I don't know what they're going to I don't know what they'll unseal as far as the discovery goes. I don't know.
Well, I get really sick of I think it'll be most everything. The judge didn't seem to want to keep the dissemination order even in. And I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. But I get really sick of hearing people say they didn't have anything, or like we talked earlier, the case wasn't stronger. Oh, that's all they had. What was in what he said when he stood up. That is clearly not all they had. We've seen some of it come out in Dateline. If you paid attention at all to the filings that were happening, where the 911 call was released, where some of the text messages and then more of the text messages, there was more stuff. The picture of him with his thumbs up, like his Google searches, those were mentioned in the Dateline. There's going to be stuff there. There is so much stuff that the messages between the roommates, there's a lot of shit besides what was in that outline. That's just the basic details.
Right.
You know what I mean? There is more. Just like I said, with him sitting down in the chair in Xana's room, that shows he was clearly exhausted, and what could explain why he wouldn't kill somebody else if he did see them, which, like, I'm kind of with you. I don't know that he even saw her.
Which means, if that's okay, so that is something that was said in the Dateline, and they said that they had a source close to the investigation. If that is true, how would they know that he sat in that chair? Obviously, there's evidence that he sat in that chair.
Yeah.
If it's true.
Well, and I think there's evidence that both people's blood was on him. The way I understood it in the Dateline, I believe that it's true because, number one, they had the recording of all the recordings of his car going around, and somehow had the recording of the dog barking and the thud from the camera next door. The judge, Ann Taylor, filed a filing right after Dateline and said,
Yeah,
oh my
she
God,
did.
all of this was released. Who the hell, where's the leak coming from? So it makes it appear that it was true,
Exactly.
And then the judge had that special prosecutor.
Well, I like to, me, I like to put that caveat if it's true until there's some kind of fact paperwork. You know what I mean? You know me and my paperwork.
No, I'm the same way. I scream that. I've been screaming that for 2 years,
have.
but I
Yeah,
do
you have.
believe it's true.
I do think there's a
personally.
strong, which means that they had other evidence,
Right.
that they had other evidence.
They said that he had some kind of container. We found out he parked behind the house. We didn't know that. I had always assumed most likely that's where he parked, but we didn't know. And in the camera footage on Dateline, you don't see that side. Like, I don't know, is there not any cameras over there? Or because all you see is his car in the front going around and around. 3:31, 3:35, 3:37. These aren't exact times, but it was like every couple minutes.
Right. I don't know. I don't know what all they have. Like, what I know what Dateline got, but I don't think that Dateline got all the obviously, So
yeah, me either. Me either.
I don't think that
there's
this
obviously more.
Yeah, I do not think that this was a weak case by any stretch of the imagination at all. I think they had a very, very strong case. And I think that Bryan Kohberger recognized that they have a strong case. And I don't know that I need to see more. I'm going to wait and see when all this evidence comes out, when we finally, if we get a lot of it out. I'm kind of, I can't say that at this moment, right? I kind of don't think that Bryan Kohberger took the plea deal because he was trying to avoid the death penalty. Because the fact of the matter is, he was a criminal justice student. He knew what he was facing if he committed these crimes. He knew that the death penalty would be on the table. I don't think he cared. I think that I don't think that was the reason. But I'm going to wait and see.
Well, his teacher said, she said, I tried to keep an open mind about him being involved. She said, I don't ever want to be suspicious of my students anyway. And I wanted to keep an open mind. And then they were asking for an alibi. And he said he had one. She said, and I thought, if you have one, tell them, get out. She said, then the alibi came out. And she said, he knew that wasn't an alibi. He would have known that from our classes. She said, he's very capable of self-reflection, and he would have known. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh no, something is wrong. Basically started making her think he might be the one then. But
see, I think, Tess, I don't think he believed he wouldn't get caught. What I think he wanted, I don't think that he wanted to stop. I think he wanted to be a serial killer. I think this was his first run. And I think that he thought that, I mean, he is a criminal justice. He tried to do all of the things to avoid being caught, except for, why would you bring your phone?
Yeah, and Chasing said he did all that in 10 minutes. I doubt he sat down. Well, I think he sat down just for a second or two. This is according to Dateline. But after, like I said, after the Dateline episode, Ann Taylor filed a motion that now all this evidence was out that should have never left the case, that somehow there's a leak from the non-dissemination order. And that's when the judge put the special prosecutor on. And they had other stuff that they had to have gotten from an investigator or somebody. I don't know. I don't know who, but so I guess we'll see, you know, when the discovery comes, we'll find out for sure. If Dateline just made that up, like that'll be bad for them, I think, but we'll see.
Right. I mean, I do think that Bryan did some things to put off getting caught for as long as possible, right? Like not having, because people have, we don't, I mean, not that we know of as of this at this time. We know of nothing that connects Bryan Kohberger to any of the victims, okay? Which that is part of what makes a serial killer a serial killer. They're not connected to the victims, and the victims are not connected to each other. It's the randomness. It's seemingly random, but not random at the same time. So I think that was like the step one. Okay. I mean, he was around girls all day, you know, at school. He could have picked any number of those, but he didn't. He chose to do it where he did it for a reason, to distance. He wanted it to be far enough away from him that it's not in his backyard, right? But at the same time, not so far that he couldn't go back and potentially keep an eye on the investigation if he chose to, right? I don't think Bryan was done. I think this was his first one. And I do think that had he not been caught, can you imagine if, you know, that tip from the university security guard about the car had not come in?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, right? So I do think that what he was doing was gearing up to become a serial killer. That's what I think he wanted. And the only way to be known as a serial killer, the only way you gain the infamy is if you get caught. In fact, that was BTK's undoing. He was mad about the news not showing his letters and giving him the credit that he wanted, that he could not help himself, and wrote and ended up from the, you know, from the library computer. I can't even remember. Was it the church computer? You know what I mean? Completely traceable.
Didn't he say, can a floppy? Yeah.
Yes, on a fucking floppy disk, because he wanted people to know what he did.
I wish we could play Dateline on YouTube clips from it, because another thing like that shows us it was a real leak. That camera footage was all that was mentioned in the affidavit. Not to go back and forth from subject to subject, but just thinking about that, like, I want to play that.
I know. I wish there was a way we could,
like, of the car going around, but I don't know any way that. I think the only way is if you have like a Discord or something and you watch in there with your audience. I mean,
you could play it. You could play it, right? Then when Dateline, and they will, NBC Universal gives you a copyright claim, because they will. Then you can write back to, you know, respond to it and say, I used fair use. I used it for education purposes. I acknowledge where it actually came from. All the things. You could do that.
That's true. Well, I found this from because NBC is Dateline, right? And then yeah,
Yes.
NBC's Dateline. So this is about the Dateline. You want to listen to it for a second, and then I'm done.
Sure.
Unless you got
Okay,
anything
you
else.
beat. Allie said, "I'm done."
I mean, I don't have anything else. We can keep going through the group, but like this guy is. The last post I was going to read is so annoying and stupid. The points that I really wanted to like touch on, we already talked about.
Yeah, I think we did.
So.
I think we accomplished what we set out to accomplish.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, here we go. Let's see what they put in this because I've never seen this video. So,
okay.
In this house, just steps from campus, in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were stabbed to death. Their accused killer, Bryan Kohberger, faces trial this summer.
they might strike
He's
me for
pleaded
even
not
playing
guilty.
this, which if they do, I'm
For the
not
last
there.
2.5 years, Dateline has been on
Or
the ground,
claim me.
reporting, gathering, and learning from people with direct knowledge of the case. We've obtained things that have never before been seen publicly, like these security videos from a camera on a house near the murder scene. Videos that show a white
338.
sedan, a car that investigators believe was driven by
340.
Bryan Kohberger, making repeated passes of the King Road house that night
356.
before the murders. With evidence like this and our reporting, we have assembled a timeline for the weeks, months, and days before and after the murders. Starting with a pool party Kohberger attended in July, just after he moved to the area in pursuit of his...
That wasn't every camera. That wasn't every time he did a loop, though, was it? Because I thought there was even more than that.
I thought that there was more than that as well. Skip ahead a little bit and see if they go back to that footage again.
Oh, they talk about
Bundy.
They said that he was following a bunch of people that knew the girls, but not the girls directly. Like some of
You
their
see
friends.
how that's distancing, there's no actual direct connection,
That's
which,
interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's.
Well, here is the part about his phone search. Let's see what they say about that. Like his Google
Okay.
searches. Because
Okay.
according to them, they have that too.
All right.
Like it is crazy though that like you can just hand off while there's a non-dissemination order all this evidence to Dateline.
Right. And I gotta say, I don't know who writes Keith Morrison's narratives or narration, or if he does it himself, but hats off to whoever that is, or to you, sir, Keith Morrison, because you do a damn good job. You get people sucked in right in the beginning. Fantastic.
Yeah, he does. Okay, here.
including close friends of the King Road victims. Dateline has also obtained records showing the details of what an FBI cell phone expert has claimed to be in the month before the murders, 23 occasions when Kohberger's phone connected to a cell tower, providing coverage to within 100 meters.
Oh, wait. And some of the stuff that they said on Dateline came out in the hearing, like the 23 occasions, but there was a couple other things.
Yes.
Here's the house at 1122 King Road. And in the hours after the murders, details of the timing of phone calls Bryan Kohberger made to a phone linked to his parents just before the controversial selfie he took. And we'll talk to the mother whose daughter was supposed to be staying in the house the night of the murders, but a change of plans may have saved her daughter's life.
How soon was it that
Can you imagine if your child was supposed to go? Because I guess her daughter lived there with them before and was going to go spend the night, and they didn't. Their flight got delayed, so the daughter's home watching their house and dogs, and then she can't leave to go hang out with her friends. Oh my God!
Isn't it interesting how this is what I'm talking about, like best laid plans in life? Do you know what I mean? A series of small, what seems like small, insignificant decisions that you make every day to either, turn right or turn left. You either run into or you avoid some tragedy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very scary, But yeah, I'm not going to play the rest of the video. I thought Keith was there doing an interview, but it looks like they're just talking about the episode. Oh, he may have been, on video chat. But what I really want is that every one of these these
Okay, well,
videos.
I'll see if I can find them for you, and then
Okay, yeah,
we'll
thank
try to
you.
play them.
Yeah, because I would like to see how, because we have 333 here, 338, but on Dateline, they even show his car. That's one of the things that came out on Dateline. There we go. They
Yes.
show his car, like where they say about to lose control, turning after leaving the home. They show the video footage of that, and then we hear the prosecutor say it in his roundup.
Yeah.
Mm.
Those little pumpkins are cute.
I remember those at the time.
Mm-hmm.
This. And
It's
I remember.
just sad. Look at this night.
I know.
Everybody is just, everybody's home. Everybody's in their beds. It's just another night. And then until it wasn't. It's just sad.
It is sad. And then, like, imagine being Ethan and Xana's parents, and they weren't even the targets, and like any of their parents, it would be so hard. I feel like, in different ways. Just you lost your child so hard for that reason, and then you have all these what ifs, and what if this wouldn't have happened, and his brother and sister probably ate themselves alive with that stuff too.
Yes, of course. Or what if parents, it's the whole thing is just, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's sad for everybody, and grief is not a straight line. Okay, it's not like you go through all the steps in a straight line in order and finally get to the acceptance part. That's not how grief works, and that's why I wish that people would give all of the families grace. Let them feel how they feel.
Agree. Triple L said, what I was trying to say in a super chat was how crappy it was for the defense to have the venue changed, knowing he was guilty. This made it harder for the families to make the hearings. You know what, Triple L? I think it's a blessing in disguise that the venue was changed, because Judge Hippler was all about business. He wasn't, he knew the case very well. And when Anne was trying to make arguments that didn't make sense, he was ready, and in the middle of her argument, wouldn't even let her continue, and apparently, well, let me not even get into that. But he was very knowledgeable. He had obviously done his research, and he was all about business. He wasn't going to let these, just like, for instance, Ann Taylor wanted to put out those 4, what do you call them, Jim?
Alternative subsects. Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't let her publicly. He sealed it, closed the hearing, made it private, and then shut it down. He wasn't, I don't know. I just think that he was a really good judge for this case. And
I do too.
Need somebody stern like him for a case with this many conspiracies and craziness. Because
I do too. And Ann Taylor was okay. So for Ann Taylor, can you imagine when Bryan Kohberger reached out to her and said, "I want you to reach out to the state and ask about a plea deal"?
Yeah.
When she asked for the change of venue, she did it because she wanted her client to have a fair trial, and she felt like he couldn't get it in Latah. And so she was doing her job, which unfortunately, that's a problem. And it's happening right now in the Pike County massacre. Right now, Billy Wagner is up for trial. When that happens, who God only knows, who's going through all kinds of appeals because of Judge Hines' recklessness. But anywho, his decisions are reckless. One of the family members got an attorney to speak for them to appeal the potential for a change of venue, saying that the families have attended every single, and they have, of the victims have attended every single pretrial hearing, every day of court with George Wagner when he was on trial. They were there every day. But a lot of the family members are older, they're ill, and they cannot travel. And that judge, you want to talk about a judge that doesn't give a rat's fat kneecap about victims? Judge Hine. Ridiculous. God, he makes me so angry.
Judge Hine, his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, I was doing something in the background too. So look at this. It appears Judge Hippler believes Ann Taylor's team leaked evidence to Dateline, not the prosecution, as Kohberger's claim. Now, I don't know if that's true. Let's look at what it actually says. Read it all. Oh, in the link. So we'd have to read the whole link, but it says, or half of defense. Oh, it is hereby ordered all persons who at any time, past or present, work directly or indirectly by employment, contract, consultation, or otherwise for or on behalf of defendant Bryan Kohberger or his defense, or otherwise engage in the investigation of the murders. So no, that's not just saying his defense. They're pointed or otherwise engaged in the investigation of the murders that are the subject of the instant case on their behalf are hereby prohibited from deleting, discarding, overwriting, destroying, altering, or otherwise making unavailable. So maybe he did. Maybe
Wait a minute, but they gave the same. He gave the same order to the prosecution. It's a preservation order.
Okay. Yeah,
he asked it from he asked it from both sides. He said, hey, until we get this straightened out, if you work currently or ever, and we're part of this investigation at all, you don't do nothing with nothing. Don't delete shit. Don't erase shit. Don't hide shit. Nothing.
Here it is. Based on sensitive information not previously publicly circulated that was reported during a recent Dateline TV program related to this case and the defendant Bryan Kohberger, it appears likely that someone violated this court's non-dissemination order. But you know what, Jen, with all that being said, of course, both sides have to preserve. But I had never even thought about it being someone from his side. I don't know why, because it could have been.
I did.
Huh. What if someone was fired or let go or off the team or something, and then they would have had like all of that evidence through discovery too? They would have had the same recordings.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So what else does it say? Hereby ordered.
Let's see.
All right. Keep scrolling. Behavited. Electronic. Okay. Is there more to it?
That in any way relate to or document the fact or substance of communications with third persons, including media, outside law enforcement, which communications in any way relate to, refer to, or concern the investigation or defense of Bryan, the facts or allegations uncovered to law enforcement concerning Bryan, counsel concerning Bryan, or the investigation into the homicides. All of the documents or materials or records that could potentially constitute a document, even if it is uncertain whether such meet that criteria, shall be preserved and must be protected. The lead defense counsel shall submit to the court in camera a list of all individuals in their team. I don't see that for the state. Now, there could be a separate order for them or no?
Let me look it up.
But wouldn't,
it would only make sense. I remember him both. Saying, I do too. I remember saying, let's see.
Or a lot of you guys are saying to delay, last ditch effort to delay. I hope you guys are doing good tonight, and thank you for being here to talk through all of this with us. It has been tough to hear some of the bullshit surrounding this, but you know, I don't know. I guess that's with any case that gets this much attention. Hell, this case, when it first was breaking, like I remember I had 2 TikToks that hit 1 million views. One of them got reported, but
they did get one. So the judge stated that it appears likely that someone currently or formerly associated with law enforcement, the prosecution team, or the defense counsel violated the court's non-dissemination order. They all got one. Both sides got one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I had seen a picture of Ann Taylor with Bryan during him saying that he was guilty. And
Mhm.
she had this big smile on her face. And this was in this group. I was going to show you, but I don't know where it's at. And I searched her name. That's what I'm scrolling through here. But it was like, look at the way she's smiling at him. She pushed him into doing this. Oh my God, she's so happy. And look at him. He's not smiling back. And it's like, she cannot legally push him into doing this. She can advise
If an
him.
attorney could push a client into doing anything, we would not have had Sarah Boone with 10 friggin' lawyers, okay?
Oh my God.
An attorney can only advise. An attorney can say, okay, Bryan, look, you want a plea deal. Here is the pros of the plea deal. Here are the cons of the plea deal. This is what you risk if you go to trial. All of the things. She can only advise him. At the end of the day, it is the defendant's decision. That's it. That's all. That's why they asked Bryan the questions that they asked him. See, you see what happens?
That's okay, because we're done. But guess
Good.
what? My internet is back.
Woohoo!
I know. And that means I'm going to edit tonight and tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we're doing calls. If you want on the 4th. If you don't want to do it, if you I forgot.
I do want to do it, but can you send me the list for me to do?
Yes,
Also,
I will. Yes,
and
I
then
will.
one last thing, is Wolfie still in here? I
don't
hope
know.
she is, because I wanted to say this when you came up, but I got distracted. Hi, Kevin. She knows what that means.
She knows what that means.
Wolfie's
His eyebrows.
Kevin, and she said she was just feeding Kevin, and whenever she told me his name, I sent her, I think I either said it or I sent her the gif of SpongeBob. Hi, Kevin. So I just wanted her to hear that.
All right, let me show you one last thing before we go.
Is it going to make me mad?
No, it's just, look. So people were saying, Ashley Banfield included, saying that his eyebrows looked way thinner than before, like not bushy, as if they do, don't they? He almost looks like they're almost bleached or something.
Thank you. That's what Kohberger. Now, just between us, you can tell me and Allie, we ain't gonna tell nobody. Are you out there? Are you getting the Polident in the denture cleaner in commissary and using it to give yourself some highlights? Maybe bleaching them eyebrows. Is that what happened?
It looks like it. It does. Like, when somebody bleaches them or shaves them and they just look creepy, like that. On the right, he looks normal. Like, there are times when photographs of him where he looks like a handsome young man, right? Like this one on the left, he looks scary.
He doesn't come with a what you would like, something that is that would show you externally that he is a monster, or just exactly what kind of monster he is. But I will tell you this. There's something about Bryan Kohberger's eyes, and they go all the way back before all of this, before he was, before he actually,
like deep set.
What?
I didn't know if you meant like deep set, as in
no.
You mean it goes
all the way back
like,
to before he committed the murders. There's something, he has shark eyes. I don't know how else to say it.
He does have some very dark looking.
They're dead. Eyes. It's not even that they're so dark. It's that there's no light to them at all. And I was looking at that.
Sorry. I said it's not that they're dark. There's no light to them. I'm sorry.
It is like there's nothing. People. When people, you can tell when people have it's like he has. Thank you, Pointer. He has no soul.
It's just the way it sounded. It's not that they're dark, it's that there's no light at all.
Yeah. It's like the absence of anything. It's like the embodiment of the nothing.
They do look dark though. Like, look at here. They just look, and he has light colored eyes.
They're blue. His eyes are blue.
Yeah. So
MK, don't you be laughing at me over there, MK Lynn.
that was just funny the way you said that. I needed a laugh at the end of all this because
Yeah.
it's stressful. It is stressful. But it's very interesting. I mean, I've covered it from the beginning. I know you've covered it from the beginning because when I searched your name recently, the arrest affidavit came up.
Did it?
Yeah, it was in the search.
That thumbnail, man. I appreciate all of you guys that have stuck with me all this time with all my crazy. Let me try to see if I can pull this shit off thumbnails. No more. I don't know if if anybody's noticed, but I've dialed them way down. Okay.
I love your thumbnails. They're very good.
Thank you. He just, yeah. Okay, Lynn. Hey, anaphylaxis. Good to see you.
Oh my gosh, that was good.
He's just
All right,
the literal body embodiment of the nothing. It looks like Lori has it too. I know she tries to be all peppy and stuff like that and look like some kind of, demon Charo / Shih Tzu with that hairdo and all that, and be all bubbly, but there's nothing there. Ugh.
Letitia is a great example of that.
Oh God, she's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
She's the worst, and her shark eyes only accentuate how greasy her hair is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that.
Every multi-person unalivers, Britt said.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Allie, look at your eyes in this picture. Okay. See how you have a light to them? You see how you can, it's not just the light.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. See? Not me.
I
I
know
got
what you're
shark
saying.
eyes. Look, see, even mine in this one are shark eyes because it's a cartoon. I'm going to have to go back and put a highlight in it.
Allie, we love you, but there's not one pic of him calling into young women. Dude, but I saw a picture of him today, I think, or within the last couple of days at least, where he looked like he could almost be like on as an FBI agent or something in, I don't know, just not what he turned out to be. And then I think back to the teacher saying that photo of him in the police training, like doing the push-ups, like that, whatever, the police class in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he could have been something. And sometimes he looks like a normal, person, but other times.
He also, I'm going to look into, he does have that in common with BTK and Ed Kemper. BTK also wanted to be a cop, but couldn't. Ed Kemper couldn't be a cop either because for various reasons, but
really,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ted Bundy, went into a different type, an extension of the law, which was a lawyer because he wanted to be a criminal lawyer. So that's just another extension of law enforcement. Whether you're a prosecutor or a criminal defense attorney, it's part of the law. It's interesting how serial killers, some of them have that characteristic about law enforcement. It's interesting. Gacy too. Yep. Gacy wanted to be a cop too.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, thank you for doing this with me. And, as things become available, I know that we'll want to talk about it more as the discovery starts to become available and stuff like that. But
absolutely. Absolutely.
I felt like the defense did something to make him look better for his Ada County mugshot. I don't know if they drugged him or got a professional photographer. They're two very different. If they drugged him or got a professional photographer.
Like he could only... like those are the only two options. He's either drugged or they hired glamour shots to come in.
But I don't think it was done by chance.
Oh, okay. Gift memberships, babe.
Dude, it does look like more. I know what the one you're talking about, and it does look. That's the one with a little hair on his face, right? Like a little bit of stubble.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, MK. Thank you so much. That's super sweet. Thank you. All right, Jen. Well, thank you for being here. I will get that list to you. I got to take my computer next door and put my mic up and stuff, and then I will write it down for you.
Write it down. Thanks, baby. And don't forget, now I've gone, if you guys have any suggestions for the best, worst of Ain't B, email me, because I'm putting together a little video dedicated to Hi, baby, Ain't B.
I can't wait to see it. And Harley, I love amber colored eyes. They're very pretty, honey amber colored eyes. And then Tony, you're right. There is a new documentary on Peacock, you guys. And then Britt said, can't wait to watch the replay. I'm way late, but I appreciate you both so much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful 4th. And I appreciate you too. We appreciate you. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. And thank you for being here.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Uh-oh.
Huh? What are you doing over there?
Thought I plugged in, but I guess I unplugged my computer at a point and it's about to die. But okay.
Oh my God. End the live, weirdo.
Bye.